Well, it's been a couple of weeks since the SMP policy requirements, specifically mentioning the age requirement of 40, have come out, and a lot's happened since then. Several district presidents have written letters or made videos encouraging us as its leaders to continue to have conversations about pastoral formation. So in light of that, I want to walk through 5 burning, lingering questions about the new SMP age 40 requirement. Questions I'm hearing from pastors, church leaders, and lay people who care deeply about the mission of the church, and questions that I share as well. But before I jump right in, please feel free to comment below. What questions do you still have regarding this new policy? I'd love to hear from you, so let's do this. So I've got 5 questions, but first I want to clarify 2 things up front. Number 1, I am not against the residential program. I believe strongly, however, that it should not be the only option, and even it as an option should always be examined for how it can be more effective. There were many voices on my State of the LCMS survey that said it was not producing the types of pastors their churches needed. That's not my opinion, that's backed up research. And what it doesn't mean is those people or anyone who has those thoughts is against it, but believes that it should be examined for how it can be even more effective. You can actually ask questions about something and still be for it. Number 2, I am not against the members of the PFC, the Pastoral Formation Committee. These 3 or 4 people, depending on who you listen to, are brothers in Christ and faithful servants of the church. I personally know one of them and I have great respect for him. This isn't a personal attack video. But with those statements, I do have questions, and based on the responses, emails, and comments from all over the LCMS that I've received in droves, I'm clearly not the only one. People, including myself, are really passionate about this. So let's get to those questions. Question 1, where's the transparency? Right now, what we received was a fairly polished 5-page document that says what we're going to do, namely, raise the minimum SMP age to 40. But what many of us are asking is, do we actually know how we got here? The document said that the previous SMP committees folded. They didn't complete the task. Why? If there's a good reason, share it. Let us in. Let us understand. And then, how did the Pastoral Formation Committee members get chosen? The PFC did the legwork on this. They surveyed around 1,800 pastors. Every district president was engaged in the process. So the big question, where's all that data? Do we get to see the survey results? Even in a summary form? Do we get to read or hear how the 35 district presidents processed this? Do we get to hear from the people who sat in the room and made these recommendations? From what I've received, it doesn't appear that the district presidents even got a say or vote in this before it was already done. Is that okay? Some of them are clearly against this, as evidenced by their public letters and videos. Right now, we have a conclusion, but we don't have clarity of the process. And are any of the 3 or 4 people on the PFC willing to come and talk publicly about how this decision was reached? To answer questions from pastors and churches that are directly affected by this? And another question tied to that, are we okay with 3 of the 3 or 3 of the 4 people on the PFC representing the institutions, both seminaries and the Synod, and not having anyone under 40 in the room, especially when the decision directly impacts leaders under 40? Would it have been wise or even just symbolically important to have a young pastor or someone currently serving in SMP seated at that table? In the whole process, omitted from the committee's work, at least from the 5-page document, were interviews from any of the actual SMP pastors, the consumers of the product, if you will. Again, I hold nothing against these men. I believe they love Jesus and the church. This is not about attacking them, but I do have questions. We have questions about the process. And here's why we have questions. Because in the 2018 survey data from the SMP alumni mentors, that's those who mentor or supervise the SMP student and district president, here's what those numbers say. That recommendations of the SMP program, 100% of mentors, 99% of alumni, and 90% of district presidents. 7 years ago, like what changed? Here's a program that those who are invested in it are speaking really highly of it. And so why are we making these massive sweeping changes on this program like this? It's nonsensical to me without seeing some transparency, some objectivity. So this is an open invitation to either of our seminary presidents on the PFC. They've been previously emailed. or to the others who served on the PFC, I'd love to have you join me for a conversation. If we're going to ask our people to trust this decision, we need more than 5 pages on a press release. We need some transparency. And if you're not willing to do that publicly with me, please do it somewhere. Silence is not a good look, and it allows people to make assumptions. Question 2, why was 40 chosen? It's a pretty simple question. Why 40? In the document, it states, evidence shows greater completion rates in the SMP program for men over 40 compared to younger participants. Okay, great. But if we're going to build an entire policy around that evidence, it would be extremely helpful to actually see that evidence in the document. So let me help by providing what the document didn't. From 2017 to 2024, here are the SMP numbers. 95 students were under age 41, 220 students over age 41. The withdrawal rate under 41 was 21%. The withdrawal rate over 41 was 9%. That's a 12% significant difference. But here's my question. Is it surprising? Not really. Why? Because if you're under 40, you're far more likely to switch jobs, change careers, go through major life transitions, raise young children, manage childcare chaos, navigate moves, promotions, and vocational uncertainty. And SMP is a bivocational model. Younger adults are the ones most likely to have volatile schedules, relocations, growing families, and opportunities shifting under their feet. So yes, completion rates will be different and lower. They should be. Life circumstances guarantee that. But here's the bigger reality. In the broader world, as people are making major vocational shifts in their late 20s and early 30s all the time, that's often the exact season when someone asks, what am I really supposed to do with my life? And for the last couple of decades, the LCMS had a decent option, SMP, for them to consider. But now the message becomes, if your calling might be pastoral ministry through SMP, just wait another 12-ish years and hope your passion doesn't cool, your life doesn't change, and your sense of calling doesn't get redirected. Is that really the best way to steward a Spirit-given momentum in someone's life? Is that the best way to support the mission of Set Apart to Serve, where we say we want to raise up younger church workers while simultaneously we're cutting off one of the very pathways that could help them begin that journey? And here's another concern. Even with younger students in the program, the average age of SMP so far has been 51. So without those younger voices, it's going to jump to 57 or 58 likely. And this matters because when younger and olders learn side by side, they sharpen each other. The older bring wisdom, stability, theological depth, life experience. The younger bring energy, cultural intuition, mission, passion, and fresh eyes. I honor and celebrate second and third career pastors. You are a gift to the church. But I also believe this. Everyone becomes a better pastor when generations learn from one another. And this decision unintentionally creates generational silos right when we need generational collaboration the most. Our synod and its pastors are getting older and older and older, and we've just made another decision to get even older. Question number 3. Why are we stuck in an either-or instead of a both-and mentality? Why do we keep operating with an either-or mentality instead of both-and when it comes to pastoral formation? I've heard this so many times in the voices. SMP was really designed for rural congregations, not larger churches. I've gone back and tried to read some of the original documents, and honestly, I just can't find that limitation. If anything, I think we've reverse engineered this narrative after the fact. Let me read you something from concordiatheology.org from 2013, quoting the original prologue and some of the whereas sections of the SMP when it was a resolution. It said that the SMP program was created. Why? Because the LCMS had an increase in mission and ministry opportunities in a church body that was declining in members and congregations. Part-time and local pastoral ministry was used to augment ministries, including within larger congregations that wanted to start new congregations from within their staff, but couldn't provide full-time ministry to those mission plants. It also said SMP was designed both for small, isolated congregations where full-time ministry couldn't be maintained and for situations where a traditionally prepared candidate wasn't available, especially to meet the mission challenges of today's world. And then it said this, SMP was meant to meet both ministry and mission needs with the best collaborative thinking and creativity we can muster while maintaining theological integrity. From the beginning, SMP was both small, rural congregations and larger mission-focused congregations planting new churches. So why are we ignoring that original vision? I am for rural congregations having this as an option 100%. But why do we have to discount the larger churches who are using it precisely for mission? Instead of shutting it down for those churches, why not acknowledge that this program actually does serve larger growing congregations that are trying to multiply ministry? If we are a synod that has all different sizes of churches, what if we found that through this, SMP is a truly helpful path to ordination that helps serve so many of our larger and growing churches? What if, this is crazy, the institution actually worked alongside the churches that it is said to so-called serve? Man, that would be such a breath of fresh air. This works! And what if we kept it going? We say we want mission, we say we want creativity. SMP was created to help with exactly that. And so why are we turning a both-and tool into an either-or battlefield? This reverse engineering of rural only and labeling larger churches who have used this program to raise up associate pastors or plant churches as abusing it is just ridiculous and really divisive. Question 4, how many ministries wouldn't exist if this rule had been in place from the start? And how many won't exist now? The fourth question is painful. How many thriving ministries is this going to knock off? Let me give you one real example. There's a local church in Omaha started by an SMP pastor that's a friend, doing fabulous work. That congregation has been growing and raising up a younger leader under 40 who also had a heart now to plant a new church. And they were ready to do the new rule. He is no longer eligible. So now he faces 3 options. 1, he plants outside the LCMS structure, doesn't play by the rules. 2, the church plant doesn't happen. 3, he goes to another church body that actually has a pathway for him. Those are the options. And that's just one story. Multiply that by dozens or hundreds of young leaders across the synod that we could have and keep and do great things, and the cost becomes staggering. Especially in a moment when Gen Z is actually flipping some spiritual trends and showing more openness to faith. We've just made it significantly harder for that generation to connect and to ordain as leaders. We talk a lot about how out of step the culture is with the church, but maybe we need to ask if we're unnecessarily putting ourselves at odds with how the world works. Are we building guardrails that protect the church or walls that keep out the very people God is calling us to serve? And then question number 5, why can't we have civil conversations and ask hard questions? This last question is less about policy and more about our current leadership culture. Why are we struggling so much to have these conversations and ask hard questions? I left the comments open on purpose in a previous video around SMP Age because I wanted people to see that it's not just my voice asking these things. And if you scroll through those comments, you'll see deep passion, real pain, genuine conviction, and some very sharp edges with rude comments back and forth that reveal just how far apart we are and how quickly we assume the worst about each other. We are often not willing to talk to one another. We're comfortable talking about one another. And when we talk at or about one another, we don't do it very well. Before you post something or fire off that comment, pray. Ask the Spirit, is this true? Is it helpful? Is it loving? Is it necessary? And to those in positions of leadership, seminary presidents, district presidents, members of the PFC, synod leadership, please hear this. Questions are not rebellion. Questions are an invitation to conversation. And the people asking the hardest questions are often the ones most invested in the future of this church body. They are not your enemies. They are your mission partners. So those are my 5 burning, lingering questions about the new SMP Age-40 requirement. Again, I am for strong pastoral formation, strong theological depth, our residential seminaries, rural congregations, large congregations, everything in between. I believe we need every faithful pathway we can get if we're going to reach the people God has placed in our communities. Again, to the leaders of our church, help us see the data, help us understand the process, help us wrestle honestly with the trade-offs, and help us to talk to one another like brothers and sisters in Christ. Hey, if you found this helpful, or even if you disagree but are still willing to talk, leave a comment. Share your story. Keep it civil, keep it Christ-centered. Ask, is it wise? And to the members of the PFC, seminary presidents, anyone involved in this decision, again, the invitation's open. I'd love to have you on to hear your perspective, to ask some questions, to help the rest of us understand. Because at the end of the day, this isn't really about policy. It's about those of us in this church body that want to reach people with the beautiful grace of Jesus Christ. I'll close with this verse from Ephesians 4:15. It is my hope for our church body. It says this, instead, speaking the truth in love, we will grow to become in every respect the mature body of Him who is the head, that is Christ. Let us speak the truth in love. Let us become a mature body. Let us represent Jesus. Thanks for watching. Subscribe below for more. And what questions do you still have about the SMP program? God bless you.